I grew up in Portland. Did I tell you that?
Yeah.
I moved from Portland to here when I was 10. And I've thought an awful lot about it because, you know, I used to angry chat with people on Facebook, but I got to the point where I don't angry chat anymore. I just chat, talk, open freely. I feel completely free to talk with them.
I don't even do that because it's pointless, because you're not going to convince anybody. You're only going to cause yourself to have gray hair.
There is that, but I don't let it get to me anymore.
Yeah,
and plus I use some of the things they say to develop questions to go deeper into things. So
you have to know what the opposite side is thinking, and the way they process their information and the way they perceive their information. That's the only way you can kind of unravel all the tangled up cords. Because if you could get an X-ray of their brain, it probably looks like a bunch of necklaces and jewelry all tangled up together. It's going to take a long time to unravel. But if we can stop it from happening when they're younger, because the younger they are when that happens, the harder it is later in life to change. I mean, I can remember when George Bush was president, how I believed that we were justified in going into the Iraq war. Because our intelligence agencies told us, that there was, and
they're bad people,
and I was so blinded. I didn't have any critical thinking where I didn't question things. I took it for granted because you give up a certain amount of your own critical thinking and you give it to trust in the people that you elect. And when they betray you once, it's all it takes. Never to trust them again and to question everything. Yeah. Nowadays, they're just right out in the open about it. They don't even care.
Definitely questioning the place that Biden bombed.
Oh, we already bombed Syria.
Syria, yeah.
John Kerry has now told the Iranians about Israeli operations on 200 different occasions where the Israelis attacked Iran in Syria.
I heard about that.
He should get in trouble for that.
Yeah, I just heard about that today. You probably heard about it 2 days ago.
The Mossad,
put everything in
which is
my
the
playlist.
Israeli CIA, has a 100% track record of killing everyone that has done things like that. The 1974 or 76 Munich Games in Germany, when the Israeli athletes were held hostage by all of the Palestinian Liberation Front or something, the PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization, killed a bunch of Israeli athletes. Every single one involved in that ended up with a bullet in their brain.
Yep.
Just a few years ago in Saudi Arabia, they got the last one in 2006, I believe.
Yeah, that's more of that crazy stuff. That's like,
if you remember, Chuck Schumer told President Trump, hey, you better not talk bad about the intel agencies, because they have more ways than Sunday to get you back. Well, the most powerful one in the world is Israel's. And if Israel thinks that you're telling them their mortal enemy, Iran, which is trying to get a nuclear bomb to wipe Israel off the map, if you're telling them that, hey, yeah, these guys are bombing your dudes over in Syria, you might want to do something about that. And he's part of the American government. Number one, he should resign, but he's not going to.
Yeah.
He should be fired, but nobody's going to do that. He should be impeached. Whatever it is you got to do to get rid of him, nothing is going to happen. Change his name to anybody that was in Trump world, and if they did that, there would be no more cop shootings, because they wouldn't talk about that. They would only talk about what John Kerry did if it was a Trump person. Absolutely. And you know what? And they would be right to.
Yeah.
Because that's absolutely horrible. That erodes trust. If the Israelis and other countries don't trust America's going to have their back in conflict, then Taiwan's going to be screwed. If they don't think that we can keep secrets from their enemies, who's going to want to give us any intelligence about future terrorist attacks if they think we're going to go and spill the beans on the way they get the information and operations that they're doing?
Yeah.
It erodes trust, and it diminishes America's power. Anything that diminishes America's power inherently enhances Chinese power. And China is exporting their model of governance to the world.
Right.
Their lockdowns really screwed up their economy really bad. But because China controls everything within China, they can make up their own numbers, and they can say, no, China's doing great. Come invest here. And they get all these people to come in and invest into their country. None of it goes to the Chinese people. It all goes to the government and the military. And now they're trying to promote this state-private partnership as a way to cope with the pandemic. Well, that's socialism. That's fascism. When the state the state has the means of production.
Well, that's been talked about here.
Look at the Green New Deal. The infrastructure bill that's going to have, so many billions of dollars so every person can have a solar roof.
Yeah.
And then pretty soon your car is going to be against the law and you're not going to be able to get your electricity from a coal power plant.
Yeah.
Just look at the richest state that we have in our country, California. When the weather gets to a frigid 65 degrees, they have rolling blackouts because everybody turns on the heater. They can't even keep the lights on in California, and they are inundated with money. It's that saying.
That happened in Texas too. They didn't buy the ones with the defrost.
Exactly. That was also a freak storm too.
And
they propagated that too. They're talking about how the solar energy and all this, it wasn't what that failed, but it failed disproportionately to the amount that it provided to the power grid.
Yeah.
So if you you take math and you crunch the numbers, you say, oh well, what they're saying is complete bullcrap.
Oh yeah. Well, it goes back to they don't know how to do math. Like, I've been running numbers on the COVID stuff, and I tell you, the numbers I come up with are not the numbers that they put on CNN.
No. In 2020, we eradicated the seasonal flu. There was 3,000 cases of the flu, when normally on a bad year, you'd have 20,000 people die.
Yeah, yeah.
George Floyd was the only one that had COVID in his system when he died that wasn't a COVID death.
I know, it's crazy.
So this whole thing was a godsend for the totalitarian, authoritarian leftists that are in this country, because it gives them a way to control us through the vaccine passports, the mask. It was a test run. They more and more ridiculous. First, you don't need masks, then you do need masks. Now they see who's wearing masks. They see that they can sufficiently control a massive amount of people with lies, with half-truths, with censorship. If you notice, a lot of the people that were Trump supporters that were on YouTube back in 2016 are no longer there. And all of these free speech type places, when people can speak freely without fear of censorship, the ones that seem to rise to the top are the ones that are right-leaning, because you can't lie to people all the time if there's more information out there, because eventually people are going to find out about it.
Right.
So people that are more conservative tend to rise to the top. Look at talk radio. That's dominated by conservatives because the left can't control it.
Yeah.
Because they don't lie, and they make stuff up, and they use facts and logic, and they don't use feelings.
I can't wait to see the left-leaning media take those oaths. So where I was getting at when I was young, I grew up in Portland up to the age of 10. And when I was in school, I probably already said this on the show to you. I don't know who I said it to. Probably said it to a lot of people. There were whites, there were blacks, there were Mexicans, there were Arabs. There were all different colors and races of people in my class growing up.
Right, the melting pot. That's America.
It was, and it was all the way up to 4th grade, I believe. And I tell you, I didn't feel any of this going on today. They were people. It was, just like
we had
judge of character. It's like
kids had enough to worry about back in my day. I mean, if we didn't worry about that, we always filled our heads with something, and we always had something going on. All this other stuff is just adding into that, and I can't imagine how kids could deal with this stuff because their brains aren't developed. I was a little dipshit, I don't tell me all this kind of stuff, because number one, I would probably just do the exact opposite of what they were telling me, just because that's the way I was. Yeah. I'm not going to learn anything.
What was funny though is back then we picked on the kids without shoelaces. We would steal their shoes and throw them. Mm-hmm. We didn't pick on people for the color of their skin or anything.
Yeah, exactly. We were little shits in different ways. We just did
different ways.
I remember when I was in 6th or 7th grade at Yoncall Elementary, and we had our first black student come. His name was Marcus Washington. Mm-hmm. Instantly the most popular kid in school, because we all swarmed around him. We all wanted to talk to him because he came from a big city and he was black. Nobody except for one idiot kid, I won't say his name on here, would say racist things, because he was probably I think he's grown up and he probably is a real racist, bigot asshole. Yeah. But he was the only one, and we all shunned him when nobody liked him. Marcus was instantly the most popular kid in school. He came over to my house. Everybody was like a fight to get him to come over. It was a fight to hang out with him. So awesome. The exact opposite of what was going on. I see one of my parents' former employees at their gas station was talking about how she has a brown daughter and a trans daughter, or a bi daughter, and how Yoncall, there's no difference between Yoncall and the Deep South. And I thought, you have no evidence of that. You are referring to your daughter by her skin color and her sexuality, if that's even true if she came to that conclusion on her own, or if you did not just shove that into her face. But the interesting thing was, she was a diehard Bush supporter, volunteered for him, and then she went to the University of Oregon after Dell, the computer company, shut down. They paid for her education. Now she talks about how educated she is, and she is a left-wing tool. Wow. She's a left-wing useful idiot. I don't know about how useful she is, but she's definitely an idiot. Mm-hmm. And it just completely the other side. I mean, I have a picture of her. I can remember her. She's jumping up and down because George Bush walked out, and she was like in the front row of this thing, and she's just going nuts for him. Completely shifted to the other side once she got into the universities.
Wow.
Weak-minded people without critical thinking skills can be subverted so easily.
Dumb as a bucket of shrimp.